Welcome to Living a Life You Love podcast. I am so excited about today's topic. So, if you're watching on video, I'm going to show you a little something. If not, that's totally fine. I'll post it in our group, Living a Life You Love podcast group, where you can connect with me directly. I'm going to share an image of this gift that I got when I was really young. I want to say I was probably about 8 or 9 when I got this gift. But it is this just little, it's called Wish Friend. I don't know if anyone else got these. They had different characters than them. And anyways, on here it says, turn me around and your wish for courage will be found. And then you turn it over. And it is a little lion. And of course, lions are connected with our symbol for courage. And growing up, I always had this stuffed animal. I always had this Simba stuffed animal. I got it from my grandma on my dad's side. She passed when I was really young, and that was my go-to comfort toy. Simba was just my toy, and I carried him around. I still have him, and I carried him around with me everywhere because he just helped me feel safe. And I think it's so interesting how lions play out in my life because not only do I have Simba, I had this that I still have on my desk today that I still touch and I feel, and just it's something tangible in those moments where I need courage. And it's still something that is very precious to me and important to me. But I find it interesting how the thing that brought me the most comfort, which was Simba, which was a lion, is also just such a symbol for courage and how that has played out in my life. When we think of courage from a society point of view, we think of all of the superheroes and having to do some grand gesture and really having to go to extreme measures. We get to witness these incredible people with such inhuman abilities accomplish so much. And we really get to witness their hero's journey. And that can cause us to really question our own humanness and disassociate from that a little bit. And so the empowering thought for today, which if you're in the collab community, be sure that is going to be our empowering thought of today. So for our empowering thought is courage. How can you show up with more courage in your life today? And I'm not talking about doing it in some superhero fashion. I'm talking about doing it in a way that is most authentic to you. Sometimes the most courageous things that need to do as a human are when nobody else is watching. It is the early mornings that we spend journaling. It is the workout that we consistently do. It is the diet that we decide and stick to. It is the hard conversation that we have with a family member, a team member. It is that ability to realize that maybe you were wrong in that conversation. Maybe you overreacted in some way. It is the courage to recognize that we are human, that we make mistakes, that we are imperfect, and that is okay. And that we're going to learn from those mistakes and implement that into a new way. Courage is not just some grand gesture. It can be. There are going to be times in your life where you have to choose how to rise in a very difficult situation. We all have those challenging times in our life that cause us to decide to either stay small or to rise in a way that we never have before. And that can happen in everyday life. That can happen in small ways. That can happen in big, grand ways. But I do think that we need to adopt a courage mindset. How can we think of Simba in a way? How can we think of that toy in a way that brought me so much comfort? How can we think of courage ultimately bringing you comfort? Can I know for me, whenever I do something that is scary and that I feel courageous, that really is where my higher authentic self would act and to speak and to be, and when I stand up for myself, that is where I feel comfort. When I am the most courageous, when I advocate for myself and others, when I share my true self and I set boundaries and I'm clear about who I am, to me, that is where comfort lies. Now, again, this is not always going to be perfect. There are going to be times when there are challenging people that it is difficult to be courageous around. It is difficult to speak up. It is difficult to be yourself authentically. But learning those situations and really adapting a way for you to showcase that courage in even small moments, even with yourself, is so important. There are so many things that happen in day-to-day life that we do not even recognize and that we are not celebrating others for demonstrating that courage, for truly embody themselves in a deeper level. And so today, I really want you to take a moment and pause. I really want you to think on those moments where you have been the most courageous within your hero journey. I want you to journal about those moments. I want you to reflect on it. It could be a time to where you stood up to a bully. It could be another time to where you had to deliver a hard conversation and you did it with love and grace and compassion. It could be a moment to where you had to jump in with your instincts. You didn't do it perfect. You didn't do it right, but you jumped in, you helped another, and you ended with a positive outcome. It could be something as simple as waking up and working out. Could be a promise that you've kept to yourself that you have been consistently breaking. It could be showing love instead of anger in a situation. All of these things are great examples of choosing courage and allowing that to add comfort to you, your life, and your internal world. And so I really want you to reflect on this. I really want you to think of the time to where you stood powerful in your own courage. And how did that bring you comfort internally? How did that make you feel internally? Because I think, again, we move through life at such a rapid pace that we forget. We think about the negative, but we forget about the positive ways that we really showed up with courage. And today, I would really like you to challenge yourself and think of those ways that you were very courageous for yourself, for others, and determining ways that you can implement more of that. So really reflect on those moments, sit into it, write it out, tell the story. Sometimes I find it a really useful tool to just write the story as if from a third person perspective and really getting very clear on the feeling that is happening within that situation. So remember, you are the hero in your own journey. And you show courage in so many ways, each and every day. You are a human being who has so much light and capabilities. Your superpowers are unlike anyone else's. And I think that it is important to recognize. Even if you cannot shoot laser beams out your eyes or fly or read minds or have super strength, understand that you still have certain capabilities that people appreciate for. And those capabilities come out the most when you are demonstrating courage. A friend of mine, she talked about words of the year. A lot of people like to set words of the year, and her word was courage. And I really loved it because it's really courage is showing up even when you don't want to, in my opinion. Courage can have a lot of definitions to it. But when I think of courage, I think of the courage to really show up in ways that really make you uncomfortable at first, but really bring you comfort internally. And so by doing that dark work, by working out when it's early mornings, by having that hard conversation, by taking care of the kiddos in the middle of the night, by facing everything that we have to face on a day-to-day basis, where are little moments of courage in that? And where are you truly allowing your authentic gifts to shine? We all have the capability to be like our little lineman, and we don't have to flip over and don't have to flip it over in order to find that courage is already within you. So what are some ways that you can recognize the courage that you have been bringing in to your everyday activity? How are you showing up? How are you really showing up for yourself, showing up for your family, showing up for your community in ways that bring you so much comfort, joy, excitement? And so, my friend, take a deep breath and just sit with this idea of courage and this empowered thought of courage. And recognizing those moments that you are being courageous today, tomorrow, in the past. Really reflect on when your most courageous moments were, how they made you feel, and ultimately the comfort that it brought into you in your life. Thank you so much for listening today. It took courage for you to listen and identify all of these things. I know for many of us, we work through the ones of life as what we are lacking and what we are missing compared to the courage that we are bringing into our everyday life. And how can we learn to celebrate that more? That is the empowered thought for today. Go on, journal. Again, you can enter in that empowered thought within our community, Living Life You Love podcast. It is a great place to connect with other listeners, to connect with me directly. And that is where you will get entered into today's giveaway or into this giveaway as well. So courage, represent courage, and identify those ways that you have done that. I think it is so important to celebrate the ways that we are being courageous in our everyday lives.